everyone. Welcome to Monetize Your Message. We're here today with Laura Petersen, and we're super excited. This is actually kind of like, it's time because I've interviewed with Laura twice now. So I'm like, okay, we've got to get you. So thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. It's fun to be on this side of the mic.
Yeah, now you're in the hot seat. So Laura is, I first came across Laura a little over a year ago, and she was just starting up this podcast called Copy That Pops, which I was immediately in love with because it's all about the psychology behind copywriting and how you can use psychology to write better copy. Yeah. And her website is copythatpops.com. So if you head over there, you can learn more about that. But I kind of fell in love with this concept because we were both teachers, actually, and you used to teach psychology and I used to teach English. And so it's kind of the perfect meshing of passions there. So yeah, we got together, we chatted, and then a few months later, you put out a book. And that book, which is Copywriting for Podcasters, how you came prepared.
I know.
Copywriting for Podcasters, how to grow your podcast brand and business with compelling copy. And you hit the bestseller list on the first day, right?
Yeah, exactly. The day that I launched it publicly. Yeah. Within a few hours, really.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. And I know we have some people in our audience who would love some insights into that. So why don't you just kind of tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are now?
Sure. So thanks so much for having me. Like you said, I was a teacher. So I grew up, taking it way back, as a big nerd in school. I was the best grades everywhere and compete for valedictorian. I think I was like number 13, so I wasn't that close to that level. But I was like hanging out with the valedictorian, and the people like that were a bunch of big nerds in school. And I just believe that all you need in life is to just do really well in school, go to the best college possible, and get the best job you can, and then just climb the corporate ladder. But then I studied abroad in Germany for a year, and that was very transformative. And then right when I came back, my dad gave me the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that completely shifted my paradigm of what was even possible, because I never thought really about money per se, or the difference between trading your time for money versus creating businesses or investment vehicles that actually made your money work for you, even while you're sleeping and all that, jazz that we entrepreneurs love. So I was 21 years old when those two things all came together. And I really wanted to start a business. I wanted to invest in real estate, but I was still super early on. And I was just like so trained for academia that I feel like I had a lot of things to unlearn, a lot more growth to be had as well. And, I'm 36 now, and I was 15, is that 15 years ago, which doesn't seem...
It's not fun to do that math every time I do it. Like,
ow! Okay, yeah, I guess it's a little longer than I thought. But, the environment wasn't like it is now with being able to create a business online in the way that you can. So I tried for a few years. I had some business attempts and business partner things that kind of went nowhere, and just ended up running back to what I knew, which was education. So I ended up doing my master's degree in education, and I actually almost became an English teacher like you, Jesse. So I was actually deciding, like, should I do English? But I kind of was like, I don't know if I want to be grading teenagers' papers all day, every day.
Good call.
So I was like, I like reading, but not that much. No. And so I ended up going with math because I'm like a nerd for math too. And that was super in demand. So my first year teaching, I only had math because that was what I could get a job in. So I taught geometry and I think all geometry my first year. The second year I taught some psychology classes became available. So from my second to my fifth or fourth year, however long I was there, I did a combination of psychology and math, both. And I taught for 5 years. I loved it, but I just knew in like my heart and gut that this wasn't it for me, and I needed to start a business. So that was 6 years ago. Right when I was turning 30, I was like, okay, that's it. I don't care. Like, this is happening. So the first business that finally worked was a tutoring and test prep company, which makes sense because that's what I know. And I have a business partner in that. His name is Todd Van Duzer, and that company is still alive and growing, and Todd's doing an amazing job over there. I've since become a silent partner because I got more and more into podcasting and digital marketing and growing your business with the power of writing and podcasting and just content creation in general. So I kind of just discovered that I really loved that. And that's where I've been growing my own personal brand the past couple of years. Long story short.
It's so funny how like you get out of teaching, but you're never stop being a teacher, right?
Yeah.
I've noticed that with us. Like for a long time, our business, we were just copywriters. We were just doing this writing in the background. And then I felt very unfulfilled by that. I was like, we need to teach people. How do you feel about teaching people, Marie? And we started incorporating that into our business, and it's been great. It's like a part of you that you can't let go of.
Yeah, I feel like we uniquely have these skills and experience that we can apply to our own courses, our own videos, our own everything. That because we know what it's like to try to reach different experience levels or different personality types by working with kids and teenagers. So I think that's really cool that we both have that experience and apply it to the business world.
Totally.
So how did you decide that books and publishing books was something that you wanted to do for yourself first?
Good question. So I actually thought about writing a book at some point, at some time, but I guess I kind of thought, oh, that's something I'll do in 5 to 10 years. And last October, so October of 2016, I had 3 different people who I really respect tell me or ask me, why don't you have a book yet? Because by seeing my emails and the other ways I communicated in writing and copy, they were like, you can write in your sleep. Why don't you have a book to like show for it and, increase your expert status? And those 3 people were Brandon T. Adams, James Altucher, and Eric Yang. And so all of them within a week said that to me in October. And I was like, oh man, I need to write a book. So I decided it could either take me 30 years, 30 months, or 30 days. And I decided to go with the latter. So I wrote, self-published, and launched my book, hitting #1 Amazon bestseller in 30 days last year. So yeah. And I mean, I was just like crazy all in. I was getting up at 4 a.m., like working on it for a few hours. I still had clients to fulfill. It's not like I had nothing else to do, but I was just like so committed, and I announced it publicly, and I kept sharing updates with all my friends on Facebook. I had no email list. I did no Facebook ads. I just kept sharing my journey with my own group of friends and family and business associates. And kind of the combination that I figured out was just the right recipe to make it work. And so then this was just October into November of last year, 2016. And now since then, I've helped 7 other people do the same thing and actually hit even better numbers than I did. I hit #1 in 1 category in the US and 1 category in Canada. And just yesterday, shout out to Akbar Sheikh, he just went live with his book. He hit #1 bestseller in all 3 categories in 5 different countries and #1 in a 6th country. So I'm getting better and better at helping people do it.
That's astounding. Wow.
Yeah. And I created a course. So that's like my main thing that I am driving people towards, is helping them do it themselves too.
Absolutely. And, I think since we run in some of the same circles, one of the things I remember the most about around this time last year, coming up on this time last year, was sharing the process and being like, okay, I'm doing this, or here are some different, book cover options I have. Which ones do you like best? And like making the world a part of that process. I thought that was so cool. I'd seen people kind of attempt to do that before, but the way that you did it was so engaging, and everyone was so eager to participate. And it was just such a cool example of showing the process.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I wasn't really following Gary Vaynerchuk at the time, but now since then I really love his stuff. And he talks about like document, don't create kind of a thing. And I feel like unknowingly I ended up doing that. So I wasn't like creating content on how to publish a book because I hadn't done it yet, but I was documenting the journey. And so people felt really involved, invested in it. So it was like a sneaky marketing tactic because I was in front of them all the time, but they also felt a part of it. So like they gave me legitimate feedback, which truly influenced the title of the book, the colors, things like that. And so I think the other thing as well, psychologically, is it showed everybody that I was serious, because a lot of people are like, I'm going to write a book, and then you never hear from them again, or I'm going to do XYZ, or I'm going to move abroad, and they don't do it and they just disappear. So psychologically, we want to see the same message over and over before we really believe it. Even friends and family who you think would do anything for you, you ask them to do something and they're like, eh. But if they see you are like super committed to it over time, then they're like, oh, I have to help you out because you're obviously really committed to this. So sharing the journey over the 30 days, I think really increased the amount of sales I got in the end. Not just because people like actually wanted the book, just some people were like, wow, like you really committed to this. I'm going to go help you out.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because I think when people don't see all the behind the work, like work that goes into that kind of project, something that massive, if you had just sort of popped up and said, hey, I published a book, people have been like, cool, that's nice. Like, good for you.
Exactly.
But like the fact that they saw all the effort, you were super like visible and vulnerable throughout the whole process and involved them. Yeah, you're right. That's like the secret sauce. So so you talk about how you don't need to have experience in writing books. You don't need to have a giant ad budget. You don't need to have a humongous email list in order to be successful. But what do you need to have in order to say, yes, writing a book for my business is right for me?
Well, I think the first thing you need to decide is what are your goals with it, and does it feel worth your time? Because it's not like it's something you can knock out in an hour. It's definitely a process. But what I personally have found is that being a published author, even if it's self-publishing, I think the taboo of that is completely gone. Even huge names are self-publishing now too, so that is not an issue anymore. But just being a published author, whether or not hit bestseller, whether or not you even sell anything, no one actually fully knows. I mean, they can do some research, but no one takes the time to that. But just saying, here is my book, I am a published author, has this cachet, has this magic around it that still elevates your expert status in people's eyes. So my ideal client that I love to work with, or people taking my course, are entrepreneurs who are experienced. So they've got some dirt under their fingernails. They really know their craft and their stuff. They're maybe not just starting out at zero like I was 6 years ago, but they want to be seen as more of an expert in their niche. And I really encourage people to write a book about something they truly know that would be something, if a client picked up, would go, wow, they know their stuff, I want to work with them. So it's really a tool to grow your business and grow your expert status. You can get booked on more podcasts. You can speak on more stages. I've even heard some people who put on conferences won't even let you speak on stage unless you have written a book. So it's such a multi-purpose tool that can really increase your brand, get you more media exposure afterwards, and just be a tool in and of itself to close more clients, make your competition irrelevant because they're like, oh, well, she wrote the book on this. I want to go with her versus him or whatever. So if you're going into it with those goals in mind, I think it's a great option for you. If you want to retire off of passive income from your book sales, that's not what I teach because I haven't been able to do that, and I don't care to do that because I'm using it as a tool for the actual business I already have and really love. So it's just about, are your expectations and goals aligned with those things? And if they are, then it's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, that makes total sense. In fact, I think I read this on your website somewhere. I was poking around before this call, and you mentioned about how like the book is almost like the new business card, and it's so much more powerful than that.
For sure, because actually what I held up earlier is I just made these cute little business cards that are square because I'm going to Podcast Movement next week. Are you guys going?
No, we won't be there, but I've heard such amazing things. I want to make it eventually.
Yeah, and a girlfriend of mine, her name's Allison Melody. She has the Food Heals podcast, which is amazing. And she gave me one of these little cards and it was square. And I was like, that's such a good idea because it's perfect for your artwork. So I literally just got these in the mail yesterday. I wanted to have them for Podcast Movement. But yeah, what was the question? I just went blank on that now.
You just made me go blank.
I know. So you said live TV, folks. Okay, you said
real life.
You were poking around.
Oh yeah, that is the new business card. That the books are the new business card.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've actually stopped using business cards. I just made these just for that event because I thought it'd be fun. But you get like 100 of these at an event and then you get home and you just toss them, but no one is going to throw away a book. I mean, they may not read it. They may just put it on the shelf, but they're most likely not going to completely toss it. So it's like branding. It's like in your mind. And if they do read it and go through it, you're just increasing the know, like, and trust factor right away, which is way beyond a business card. So I think a book is a business card and then some.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, there are a lot of people who want to write a book. And I think there are also a lot of people who really know their stuff within their niche, but then are like, okay, great, I want to write a book about it. And then immediately get super overwhelmed because you're right. It's not just like I can do this for an hour and then I'm good. So what kind of advice do you have for someone who's like, yeah, I think I'm ready for this. I think it is a good tool for my business, but oh my God, there's so much that could go into this and it feels super overwhelming.
For sure. Well, buy my course. But aside from that, what I teach in the course and what I help clients do is just like they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So just really break it down. So the first thing is like, don't see it as I need to write a book and hit bestseller. Just see it as I need to bring up all the ideas that I could write about in the world. Write them all out. You do it with sticky notes all over the wall or a mind map tool or a piece of paper, whatever works for you. Just get it all out of your head. Because once you get it out of your head, then you kind of feel this relief like, okay, I'm not forgetting anything. Once you get it all out, then maybe sleep on it one night, come back the next day and look at it and think, okay, if I want to be known for something, which will lead to getting me more clients or sales of my product, what's the main one that's going to get me there? Of course, you can do all of them in time, but let's just start with one. So then pick one. Okay, now you can let all those go for later. You can just save them in a file so they're not gone forever, but just for a little bit later. Now you're like, okay, I just have this one topic. From there, now I can say, okay, what are the subtopics that go in this? What are the subpoints I want to include? Ooh, what are some quotes that are coming to my mind from experts that would make such a relevant point here? And you can start kind of flushing that all out. And now that's your outline for the book. So you've now gone from, oh my God, overwhelm to brain dump idea, focus on one, flush it out a bit more. Now from there, you can literally just start batching your work and say, okay, this is what I did. So I was getting up really early. My husband works in the landscaping industry, so he's up at like 3:30. So I was up at 4 a.m. every day and I would not look at my phone. If I opened my computer to type, it was only like my Google Drive folder. It was nothing like with Facebook, no email, nothing. I was like, the morning is mine because I'm the most like awake then. And if I deal with everyone else first, then I'm making their emergencies my priority versus the other way around. I want to make my priority the priority. So what I did is I would batch out, let's say 2 hours in the morning and I would just write. So I would just take one of those topics and I almost thought of it mentally. If I have 10 chapters, that's really like writing 10 amazing blog posts on those topics. Now I'm not feeling so overwhelmed because we've all written a blog. So I kind of thought of it that way and try to just attack it one by one in chunks. And then after a while, like it's just flushing out. And also in that note, I would say start with the meat of the book. So let's say you have part 1 is all the intro-y stuff. Part 2 is like the real meat. And then part 3 is like conclusion, how to work with me more, whatever. Start with the middle, the part 2, the meat of it. And then write your intro and conclusion afterwards, because then you've really fully seen where the book is going. So yeah, if you just break it down like that and kind of map out a plan, a little bit of a writing calendar that works in your schedule. Maybe it's not every day for 2 hours. Maybe it's, 2 or 3 days a week for 3 hours, whatever works for you. Then it's definitely a lot more manageable.
Full disclosure, I think Jesse asked that because we're in that boat of asking that question. So it's really like, you're right. I mean, I could just feel the like nervous, like overwhelm melting away as you're talking about it. It's great. And Rochelle commented, she said, yes, the fear of leaving something important out is real. And, that's a big part of messaging a book as a part of your messaging is like, how do you focus in on that right thing? So do you have advice for people who are looking at writing a book and then they have like all these big topics? I know you said sort of what's the most important, but what if like sort of everything feels equally important?
Yeah, So one thing I wanted to say with Rochelle is another thing that helps is realizing that when you self-publish, you're allowed to update your file later. So as long as what you produce is something you're proud of, if you just like get hit with a bolt of lightning a month later, you're like, how did I forget to write this chapter? You can add it and then share with everybody, hey, re-releasing it with a bonus chapter in there. You have complete control. So you didn't, Rochelle said she didn't know that. Yeah, you can update it all the time. Actually, I found a couple of little typo-y things. I'm going to upload my new file later today. So, and then anyone who buys it afterwards is going to have the updated version. So hopefully that takes a little bit of stress and pressure off of making it perfect and not missing any little detail, whether that's an error or, forgetting to put something in. In terms of focusing in on that topic, that was a hard thing for me too. I actually have my notes somewhere of where I did a brain dump and I was like, should I write about psychology? Should I write about like copywriting tips in general? Should I write about podcasting? Because I'm like, I just do all this stuff. And as the process of my like just brain dumping, it started to become clear for me. And I think that it will for you too, especially if you maybe give days. Let's say I'm going to work on it for an hour, just brain dump. I'm going to put it away, go to sleep, come back, look at it with fresh eyes. Okay, what are other things that I just thought of that I forgot about and add that in? Okay, put it away. Then the next day come back and say, okay, decision time. And think about now, maybe there are 3 things you 100% need to be known for. How can you combine those 3 and put them together in a book in a meaningful combination way that other books haven't done yet? So when I did mine, because I'm a big nerd for writing and podcasting, I went on Amazon and there was not a single book about writing for podcasters. I was like, oh, okay. That's either like a bad sign, no one cares, or that's a great sign that I can be a new person in that exact niche. So think of it that way, how you can combine different things that you do want to be known for in a unique way and then offer something special to the marketplace.
I love that. And I think, did Rochelle ask another question? It popped up and then popped away.
Yeah, so she was asking actually just for a little bit of further clarification around what self-publishing is exactly, if someone's not quite sure about the difference between self and traditional.
Okay, cool. So traditional publishing, full disclosure, I have not done it myself, so I'm not an utmost expert in it. But from what I've heard, you basically, a publishing company needs to choose you and say, yes, I want to help you get this book published and marketed and out to the world. From what I've read and heard, these days, they really want people who already have a big platform so that they don't have to do a lot of ad spend and effort to get the book sold. So what they will help do is maybe editing and formatting, maybe deal with the cover design and things like that. But oftentimes you actually have to give up some of your rights to the material because that's what part of their contract. They want to take the rights. Might be a lot of other cooks in the kitchen who are like really pushing you like, no, it needs to be this way. And you're like, that wasn't my vision, but okay, I'll do it. I know one friend who did get a publishing deal. She, as part of the contract, had to purchase 5,000 copies of her own book as part of the deal. So in my mind, if you're not a huge fan of sales and selling your own book, then you basically are spending quite a lot of money of your own money. And then you have a bunch of books that you're either going to give away for free or they're going to sit in your garage or whatever. So I personally don't like that avenue. I'm not saying I never will do it because I might get an amazing deal that really is a great package. But with self-publishing, there are a lot of different platforms you can do it. I personally specialize in Amazon just because that's the biggest one. Basically, all you need are certain accounts to sign up for. So for example, Kindle Direct Publishing, that's kdp.amazon.com. That's where you can upload your file for anyone who has a Kindle to purchase and read it completely as an ebook on their Kindle device or whatever reader that they've got, electronic reader. So all you need is an account and the file formatted in the correct way so that people can actually access it and open it up in their reader. Other than that, there's no cost to do it. It's 100% free. Now, of course, they need to make money too. So if your book is priced, I believe it's under $2.99, so 99 cents to $2.99, then you get 35% royalties on every sale. If it's $2.99 or higher, you get 70% royalties on every sale. So if it's a $10 book, that's the 70% royalty. You make $7 and they take $3 for the ebook version. Then you can also do it in print, and that split is a little bit worse in your favor just because they do print on demand. So they're actually factoring in the cost to do the printing, ship it out to the person and all that too. So you don't make a ton of money percentage wise, but the upfront costs to actually do it could literally be zero if you do all your own writing, formatting, editing, book design, cover.
Yeah, and you can do it in 30 days, whereas with traditional publishing, you cannot.
Yes. Yeah, that's the other thing. Sometimes it takes as long as like a year or 18 months, and you're like, oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah. Not that you necessarily have to feel pressured to do a book in 30 days. I think Laura is an exemplary example of someone who is incredibly structured with her time and energy. But you can, if you decide to make that commitment and you say, I want to have a book on the bestseller list in 30 days, that's something that self-publishing allows you to do, which I think is amazing because 10, 15 years ago, this conversation would not be happening.
100%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it's amazing how fast the world changes. And I'm really glad you said that too about the stigma about self-publishing because I don't know if our listeners, like Rachel was asking about self-publishing. So to my understanding, until really recently, if you were self-published, it was well, that's cool, but it's not as legit, right? As being picked up by a publishing house and having your book, sent out to bookstores or whatever. But it's been interesting to see, how that's changing. And it's really good to hear from somebody who's deeper in the industry than I am, which is to say not at all.
Yeah, for sure. And it's almost similar to when you were saying that, it made me think it's sort of analogous to even television where you weren't a real TV star unless you were on ABC, NBC, CBS or whatever. But now Netflix is huge, Hulu, Facebook is coming out with their own original content. So things are becoming more democratized. And I think the same with the book world. You don't have to be picked up by Simon & Schuster or Penguin or whatever. You can do your own thing. And as long as it's quality and your goals are aligned with what you're trying to do, for me and for entrepreneurs, that's grow your business and that your revenue is really coming from sales of products and services, then the book sales are just extra icing on the cake, but it's a huge tool to grow those other ends.
Yeah, and I think it really is a great environment to allow the best to kind of rise to the top. And it lets the, readers choose that. And it's not being funneled through someone else's marketing goals or business goals and strategies and things like that. It's all up to you and, the value that you can add, the way that you present yourself and your book to the marketplace, things like showing the process and, taking advantage of it, getting onto podcasts and doing things that allow you to put yourself out there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really perfect for entrepreneurs, right? Because this group as a whole tends to be pretty go-getter, focused, and
control freaks.
Yeah. So it seems like a perfect audience that you've settled on here, Laura.
Will you say it again?
It sounds like a perfect audience that you settled on here.
I know. Well, and I think that's a great model for a business is scratch your own itch or fill your own need, and then other people like that. So, what I teach could help also somebody who's maybe writing a fantasy novel or something like that. But that's not where I'm focusing. I'm focusing on who I am. And if people are similar to that, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I want to do what you did too. And you totally can. So I love this niche for sure. Entrepreneurism. Woo.
So for the people who do want to do that, how can they get in touch with you? How can they find out more about Copy That Pops, about your book, about how to get their own book started? Where do they go?
Good question. So you can always head over to copythatpops.com. It's the central hub. You'll see my podcasts on there. And then also I just finished last week a 5-day free training to walk you through how to write, self-publish, hit Amazon bestseller, and use your book to really leverage in your business. And it has case studies and more about my story and some of the struggles I went through too, because it wasn't all rosy peaches the entire time. I had some lessons learned, and if you can cut those out, then that's even better for you too. And then if people are ready and want to jump in the course, and there's links to that, I I do work with a very few number of clients privately. So that's kind of more of a case-by-case basis because this is all my personal brand, but then I also have another business partnership with Brandon T. Adams, who I mentioned earlier. And that's an amazing project that I love as well. So I'm kind of, pulling on both sides, as we entrepreneurs always have our hands in 5 different things, right?
Of course.
Yeah, copythepops.com. And if you add /free training, it'll take you right to getting that free training from 5 days too. But you can also find it directly on the website.
Perfect. And we'll put that link into the comments. And once we are no longer live, we update the description with a little bit of show notes and all of your contact information. So
nice.
It will be in there as well. So anyone that gets this recorded video will have access to all those links. And we also upload it to our YouTube channel. So our YouTube following will see that as well.
Cool.
Yes,
so lots of good stuff.
Hashtag repurpose.
Yeah. Content queens. So is that where, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead,
I just want to make sure, is that, because you've been talking about your course and it sounds awesome. So is copythatpops.com exactly where they should go to find out more about your course too?
Yeah, there's links
Perfect.
to everything on there. That's
Yay.
like the hub. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then in terms of social media, if you want to connect, my handle is Laptop Laura on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And Snapchat, but I'm not really on that so much. So, but yeah, cool. Laptop Laura.
Awesome. I love how you embrace your inner nerd, by the way.
Okay.
I mean, it's, I think it was Marie just yesterday who found someone on Facebook who was like in passing mentioning like Star Wars or something. She was like, it's a nerd. I need to be friends with them. So that's always something that we're like looking out for, the other nerdy entrepreneurs, because I feel like they just bring a special level of passion to their projects and aren't afraid to get into the nitty gritty and be a little dorky about it in the process.
I love that. I actually just met a girl. Her name is Erin. I'm forgetting her last name, but I just met her a week or two ago, and we ended up getting in like a heated debate about literature. And I was like, okay, I found another like English nerd. If we can actually debate like the merits of Tale of Two Cities and like, Great Gatsby and all this stuff. So.
That's amazing.
I know, like that seems like the next episode.
Yeah.
You need to come back and we'll do that. I was an English major. I've been
book
a teacher.
review. Oh, good. Book review.
Yes.
Awesome. So before we head off for today, is there anything else that you want to leave our audience with who may be on the fence about writing their book or, maybe walking away from this episode thinking, okay, it's time?
Yeah, I would say, just come and engage with me. Actually, I forgot to mention, if you go to copythepops.com/Facebook, it'll redirect you to a Facebook group that I just started as well. And I originally envisioned that as only being for people who purchased the course. But then I thought, you know what, I can help more people if I make it open and it can really be this great community that grows. So that's completely free. You have to request to join. It's not like public open, but like you can totally join in. And inside there, I answer unlimited questions and for anybody. And when people go live, other people come and support. So yesterday, Akbar went live and people were like, I bought it. Good job, Akbar. Go, go. So that's another place that you could come and maybe, introduce yourself, eavesdrop a little bit, ask some questions and kind of get a little bit more of a feel if it's going to be the right path for you.
Awesome. Perfect.
Cool. Well, congrats to Akbar and to you and your client success. And thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us today. I think this has been very exciting and invigorating for us. And for us.
Yay. Anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you.